Hello, and thank you for listening to True Crime Cam. If you are on Spotify right now, then you can probably see me. I don't know if this is going to be a regular thing, but I am going to be getting a new camera because this one is awful. I'm sorry. Sorry I haven't posted in a while. I took a little break, but I am back. This week's episode is going to be a collection of r/Let's Not Meet stories. But before I go into that, I wanted to talk about a recent case. I just posted a TikTok about this case, but I want to talk about it here too. So instead of just reading what I said in the TikTok, I'm going to instead read an article and give even more details than I did in the TikTok video. So this article was published July 17th. It's written by Stephen Dial for Fox 4. It's titled, Tarrant County Mom Arrested After Unnecessary Medical Procedures Performed on 3-Year-Old, Investigators Say. Tarrant County investigators are asking people to come forward who may have been in contact with a woman who they say abused her 3-year-old child. 27-year-old Jessica Gasser was arrested in Rusk County last week and is currently being held at the Tarrant County Jail. I'm not sure if this woman is still in jail because when I looked it up, it said no results. So she could still be in jail. She is most likely out. I'm not really sure. Tarrant County investigators believe Gasser had multiple, quote, unnecessary medical procedures performed on her child after taking her to a dozen medical facilities in 9 cities across Texas, Louisiana, and Ohio. And Detective Michael Weber, who is working the case, said, quote, this is an injury to a child case, and the injury was committed through the act of medical child abuse, which is intentionally exaggerating and falsifying or inducing medical symptoms in your child. The investigation started in February when doctors became suspicious. Court documents say that Gasser intentionally provided a false medical history to medical providers, leading them to draw blood 28 times from the victim. And the victim is a 3-year-old girl. In one instance, on March 3rd, the 3-year-old was given a feeding tube because Gasser allegedly said she was not eating and was losing weight. Doctors became suspicious after the victim still did not gain weight, even though reports filed by Gasser said the 3-year-old was taking enough calories to gain weight. Doctors reported Gasser to DFPS because they feared the suspect was not feeding her child the way she claimed she was. Gasser also has a large social media presence where she documented her child's health. Her TikTok account had more than 24,000 followers. Investigators say Gasser used the screen name Medical Mama Jess. The detective said, quote, I'm asking the public to send any social media message, text messages, emails they have from the suspect about the health of her children, because they will be helpful to the investigation to have in her own words. What she is saying is wrong with her children. The affidavit says Gasser had set up a GoFundMe account in an attempt to raise money to take her daughter to the Cleveland Clinic in Ohio for treatment. At one point, court documents say Gasser and her daughter flew from Dallas to Cleveland through a company called Miracle Flight, which offers free flights to medically complicated children. Gasser had listed gastroparesis, I'm not sure if I said that right.
Gastroparesis,
A disorder that slows or stops the movement of food from the stomach and the intestines, as her daughter's diagnosis on paperwork with Miracle Flight. At that time, doctors at Children's Medical Center Dallas and Dell Children's Medical Center has told Gasser that her daughter did not have gastroparesis, according to documents. A search of Gasser's phone throughout June showed she allegedly searched for possible legal consequences for her actions. On July 11th, investigators say Gasser searched, is lying to a doctor about a child illegal? And the next day, Gasser allegedly searched, countries that take families on asylum from CPS. By the end of the week, Gasser searched Tarrant County child abuse cases. And the last quote from Detective Weber is, these offenders, through a pattern of deception, demonstrate time and time again that they know what they're doing and they know it's wrong when they're doing it. I can't remember if the article I just read mentioned it, but this is allegedly a Munchausen by proxy case, which is when someone, usually a parent, falsifies an illness in their child, like the Gypsy Rose Blanchard case. Gasser has not been formally charged by prosecutors, but I just wanted to share this case by chance that someone knows Jessica Gasser and her former TikTok account at Medical Mama Jess. So if you have any screenshots or information about her where she's talking about her child's condition, her health. Police sent that to the Tarrant County investigators in Texas. Okay, this first one was posted 4 days ago, and it's titled, "I think my friend poisoned me and wants to eat me." I know the sub is usually just for scary stories and encounters, but I could really use some advice too, and I didn't know where else to post, and I feel this suits this sub best. I, 19 female, have had this friend, 19 male, who I've known for many years, but was never close to. Recently, coming back from uni for summer, I went back home and stayed with my parents. There isn't much to do in my hometown except for hang out with friends and smoke/drink. So that's exactly what I did. While hanging out with my friends, I ran into the guy. I'll call him Saf for the purpose of this story. Saf has always seemed like a chill guy, typical 19-year-old man who studies business, living off of daddy's money since he comes from a wealthy family. As soon as we reconnected, we developed a closer friendship. He started hosting at his house and my friends and I would go. When we smoked, he frequently brought up his fantasies of killing and eating someone. Of course, all of us being high would just laugh it off and considered it to be shock humor. However, he would never laugh while making these quote-unquote jokes. We, my friends, had agreed he was pretty creepy, but we chalked it up to him just being too high. This is until I started hanging out with him alone. We have a pretty small friend group that hangs out nearly every day. Saf and I stay up pretty late after everyone's left, usually until the sun comes up, which is how we got so close, because it would just be us at the end of the night and he would drive me home. On one of those nights, we were with a group of friends and decided we would all take edibles. For context, we were at Saf's house. 3 hours into it, when all of us are pretty gone, Saf starts going on a tangent about how it would feel to pluck someone's eyeballs out. He starts going into detail, and my other friend asked him to stop talking because it was making him uncomfortable. He always did this, but this time he really went into detail, explaining imagery, etc. Someone quickly changed the subject, and the night went on. About an hour later, my friend and I decided to look at the fridge for the munchies. As we look into the fridge for shit to eat, I feel someone put their arm around my neck, and I feel something quite heavy putting pressure on it. And as I look down, I realize Saf is holding a knife to my neck and holding my other friend with his other free hand. "What are you guys doing?" he asks. Keep in mind, we are all very high, so I start laughing it off and going along with what I thought was a joke. As my friend and I answer him, I realize he still hasn't pulled the knife off my neck, and that he in fact was holding it closer, to the point where I started to cough. Thankfully, the knife was quite dull, but it was still a massive kitchen knife. As soon as I realize he isn't letting go, I let out a scream. Nothing too loud or alarming. I was hoping he would also assume I was joking. He then lets go and walks away. The night goes on and we quickly forget about what happened. Saf offers to drive my friend and I home at the end of the night when everyone's left. My friend and I didn't have a car or money, so we accepted. On the drive home, stopped at a red light, he made my friend get out and check if the car was damaged because he had, quote, seen someone bump it while driving. Neither my friend nor I saw this, but my friend got out of the car anyway and checks. As he tries to open the back door to get in the car again, Saf locks it. The light has now turned green, and thank God it was only 5 a.m. because there were only 2 or 3 other cars around. But they all started beeping and swerving as to not hit the car or my friend. As my friend and I are yelling for him to open the door, he drives a couple inches forward, putting the tire on my friend's foot. He then unlocks the door and watches my friend yell at him for being trapped under the tire. I look over to Saf and I see him hysterically laughing and putting the car in reverse for my friend to get in. Once we get back onto the road, he starts driving like crazy, which isn't unusual for him, but he was a lot more reckless that night/morning. Now, before you all judge me for staying friends with such a weird and dangerous man, keep in mind it had never been this bad before. He just said really weird shit every now and then, but I honestly thought it was an intrusive thoughts thing. I struggle with mental health and have the most vile and weird intrusive thoughts, so I thought that was it, and as for the night I have mentioned, we were all really high on edibles. So although I was very weirded out, I thought he must have just been super high, and so was I, so I convinced myself I was overreacting. Then one night we go to a party together. We then go back in the car for an after party, but on the way realized it had been canceled. Saf then asked me if I wanted to go back to his house, eat something, watch a movie, and smoke. It was still really early in the night, so I agreed, knowing I wouldn't be asleep for a while. We pull up, he tells me to make myself comfortable, and he's going to cook us some pasta. In parentheses, do you see where this is going, lol. So I sit down, turn on a movie, and wait. He comes back out with the pasta, and I eat almost all of it, and a few minutes into the movie, I start feeling very ill. I mention this to Saf, and he says it's probably just because I drank. But I only drank very little at the party, which was around 3 hours ago at this point, and haven't thrown up or felt nauseous from alcohol in years. As time goes on, I keep feeling worse and practically beg him to take me home. He refuses because he is in his house. Understandable. However, this is the first time he's declining taking me home. At this point, I get a really bad feeling along with the sickness in my body. Decided I had to get out of there. I thankfully had some money with me, so I ordered a cab and went home. In the cab on the way home, I started vomiting out the window because of how much pain my stomach was in. I get home and I just collapse, but I am unable to fall asleep because of how much pain I am in. Then I start thinking about all the times he's mentioned the desire to kill someone and eat them. He always talked about how he would eat a girl's thigh because he believes it would be the juiciest. How he would only eat a girl and not a boy. Since that day, I've kept my distance, but I've been fighting with myself internally asking, did I get poisoned or did I just drink too much? Is he a psychopath or just a little weird? I truly don't know, so please, any advice is appreciated. As I've mentioned, I've been friends with him for years and developed a close relationship, and I do love him as a friend, just not enough to get eaten. So, my probably cannibal friend, let's not meet again. All the comments on this are pretty much, why are you still friends with this person? He tried to poison you, and he is obviously way too much interested in the taste of human meat. So, that one was messed up. Okay, this next one is called Don't Pick Up Hitchhikers. I was going to post this in r/creepy encounters, but I think it may tread the line with this group, so here I am. I, 52 female at the time, was traveling by car to an out-of-town job assignment. I had stopped at a popular and busy gas station / travel stop. Okay, it was a Buc-ee's. To fill up the car, stretch my legs, use the restroom, and grab a snack. I was approached by a developmentally disabled woman who appeared to be in her mid-20s. She was looking for a ride to a town a couple of towns over. Her ride had abandoned her while she was in the restroom. She was a little upset. She didn't have a cell phone and didn't know any phone numbers so I could call someone for her. I checked with the employees at the store and they said that she had been there for an hour looking for a ride because she said her friends left her while she was in the restroom. I then made the decision to do something I've never done before, offer a stranger a ride. I wasn't going to the town she wanted to go, but I was heading in that direction and I told her I could drop her off at the grocery store in the next town where I would be turning off to go to my destination. The grocery store was always busy, and it was very likely she'd have an easier time getting a ride to where she wanted to go. Also, she'd be 5 miles away from where she wanted to go instead of 25 miles, and she'd have an easier time walking that distance if she had to. This was agreeable to her, and we set off. Right away, I noticed a van following us. I tried to lose the van, but it kept pace. Meanwhile, the woman wanted to play with my phone. I told her no, it wasn't a toy, and it was for work, and moved it out of her reach. The van speeds up and starts to get closer. The woman suddenly remembers her boyfriend's phone number and we need to call him. I can't use my phone while driving. This was a pre-car sync voice-activated operation. And I was approaching the outskirts of the business district of next town and no cell phone use while driving signs everywhere. I told her, we're almost to the grocery store. We can call him from the parking lot. She becomes agitated and yells, no, you have to take me home. I told you I can't do that. I'm not going there. It's in the opposite direction of where I need to go, and I'm expected soon. We'll call him from the parking lot. She becomes more upset and frustrated. The van is getting closer. I pull into the grocery store parking lot. It's about 4 p.m. The grocery store is busy. I pull up in front of the store and ask for her BF's number. She can't remember his number. She won't get out of the car. She's arguing with me, and the van is pulling into the parking lot. There is a sheriff's deputy parked nearby, and I roll down my window and signal that I need to speak to him. He walks over and asks me what's going on. I tell him where I met the woman, and now she won't get out of the car, and under my breath I tell him the van has been following us. The deputy tells the woman, "She brought you where you asked her to. It's time for you to leave her car now." She slowly gets out of the car, and I ask once more for her BF's number, and she says, "You're crazy. I don't have a boyfriend." "Oh, look, there are my friends now." And she points to the damn van. The deputy and I share a look, and he says, "Give me your contact info." I can delay them for about 20 minutes while I check their license and registration, and lecture them about abandoning a special needs adult. "You get out of here and I'll check on you before my shift is over. And don't pick up any more hitchhikers." I left and went on to my destination. He called me to make sure I got to where I was going and told me that they were keeping an eye on the van and its owner. He told me he also contacted a colleague at the sheriff's department in the county where I was working, and that she would contact me in a day or two. While I was on assignment there, I spoke to 2 deputies and a detective about the woman and the van. No one ever told me anything about them, but they were very interested in them. My nightmare is one day I'll turn on a true crime show and see a report about this woman and her gang robbing and killing people. So, woman looking for a ride at the travel stop, let's not meet again. Okay, this next one was posted 5 years ago, and it's titled, "I Just Knew Something Was Off." The police just left my home. A couple of months ago, while house-sitting/dog sitting for my parents, I had an eerie feeling. As an obsessed ID channel watcher and younger female, I played it off as paranoia. During these few days, whenever I took the dog out, he suddenly began sniffing areas he never sniffed before, particularly under each of our windows. And thankfully, it's because of him that I discovered 2 larger footprints under a window that looks directly into our living/dining room. Around the same time, about 2 months ago, I noticed a man walking up and down our street that I'd never seen in the entirety of my life. In parentheses, small Midwestern town. He also had, in my opinion, odd mannerisms. Prolonged eye contact, continued staring and craning his neck as he walked by and never returned to my smiles, hellos, or waves. Eventually, I became irritated due to how creeped out I was with both him and the eerie feeling in general and decided to wave, upon no acknowledgement in return, other than a cold stare. I got up and acted like I was going to follow him down the street, to which made him walk faster and turn a sudden corner. Never saw him again. Now today, I helped my parents out by picking up their dog from the groomers. As it's right up the street and safe, a suburban area, oftentimes I don't walk while running errands in town. When I returned home with the dog, I had an unexplained, horrible feeling the minute I walked in the door. Something, maybe a blanket, seemed misplaced. Something was off. I threw a load of laundry on in the basement and quickly stood up and looked around. No one there. Then I proceed to the bathroom to check my makeup, and right when I look down to my left, and there's feces in the toilet, with no toilet paper and not flushed. I've been the only one home all morning. I immediately throw back the shower curtain and start shaking, adrenaline, and when nothing is there, I close the bathroom door and lock myself inside. I called dispatch. They arrived in less than 2 minutes, searched the entire property, make me check my laptop to see if any recent search history isn't my own, interesting, and check the fridge to see if food is missing. All valuables are accounted for. I know this isn't my feces. No one in my family would have a bowel movement and not use toilet paper or flush. I know someone has been here, yet because I love horror movies and the ID channel, they think I'm crazy. Hey dude, I now have my dad's hunting/fillet knife on me, so let's not meet. Now this one is believable. This one is super believable, even though it's really weird. This is the most believable one yet I've read. The top comment is, "My neighbor had her home broken into. The person shit in her toilet, didn't flush, and drank her wine. Nothing was missing and her door was wide open. Very, very creepy." Okay, this next one is from 4 years ago, and it's titled, "The Phone Call I'll Never Forget." This happened yesterday, and before anyone says anything, yes, I know I'm stupid. I had just gotten home from work around 9 p.m., and I had barely had any time to get my shoes off when I get a phone call from some number I don't recognize. I'm searching for new jobs and thought that it might be one of the places that I was applying to calling me back. I pick it up, and it's some guy who says that he's with some kind of third-party detention center, which, as he explained it, was for low-risk inmates that were sent there whenever the local jails were busy or filled. That should have set off a nice big red flag for me, but for whatever reason, it just made sense in my tired brain. I'm getting ready to tell this guy I'm not interested in making a donation or anything like that when he asks if, quote, "this is my full name?" question mark. I confirm, and he says that they're holding my boyfriend at the center, saying my boyfriend's full name and giving a dead-on description of him. I ask what's going on since my boyfriend is supposed to be at work right now, and the guy on the other end provides an explanation. He says that my boyfriend had struck a pregnant woman with his car on his way to work and was 4 times the legal limit for blood alcohol. He said the woman was in critical condition and that my boyfriend had broken a few ribs and his nose in the accident. I'm freaking out at this point and ask if I can speak to my boyfriend, which the man obliges. I'm put on hold for a minute or two before my quote-unquote boyfriend picks up the line. This person on the other end was panicking, saying how it wasn't his fault and begged me not to tell his parents, again using my name. It didn't particularly sound like my boyfriend, but I figured it was because of the broken nose he supposedly had, and his tone really helped to sell it, because it all sounded so legitimate. The man from before comes back on the line before I can ask any questions, and explains that they had to sedate my boyfriend since he had began to panic and hyperventilate, which I was starting to relate to more and more by the second. The man on the other end tells me that I should come right away and that the bail is set at $2,000 cash only. I stupidly tell him that I don't have that much and that I maybe have half of that. He tells me that it's fine and that I can work something out with the front office once I get there, and to just bring what I have, and seeming like he's trying to calm me down. He's giving me the address and I can barely hold a pen because my hands are shaking so badly, and I'm very poorly trying to hold back tears. All of a sudden, the door opens up, and in walks my boyfriend. Completely normal looking with no broken nose, but more than a little confused as to why I'm crying. I'm still on the phone with the man and ask him what the fuck he thinks he's doing, telling him my boyfriend just walked in, and he promptly hangs up. I tried calling back a few times, but it went directly to voicemail. Find out the power to the bar my boyfriend works at had gone out, so his boss sent everyone home early, and I had never been so grateful for a power outage. My boyfriend slept on the couch to keep watch, but unfortunately I still couldn't sleep that night, so I decided to look up the name of the organization the man said he worked for. Big surprise, that turned up nothing. I then looked up the address he had given me on Google Maps, and see that it was some random abandoned strip mall in the middle of a sketchy-ass area that was about an hour and a half out of town. What really freaked me out about the whole thing was the guy knew my number, both me and my boyfriend's names, but didn't sound like anyone we had met before. I had no idea what would have been waiting for me there, but I'm counting my lucky stars right now. So, to the guy who wanted to meet me for God knows what at the sketchy-ass strip mall, let's not meet. So, one comment says, "Is your Facebook info public? Your BF?" I've gotten scam calls before. They had all my information as well and tried to ask for me for money. When I shared my story with coworkers, they shared theirs as well. From all these scam call stories, I noticed one commonality, which is they start by making us panic. When we panic, we stop thinking straight, and we start to believe they're garbage. So don't feel dumb, a lot of us would have fell for it. And the OP said, "We just have private Instagrams, neither of us use Facebook." Another user commented, "This happened to my grandma when I was in 8th grade. She got a call from quote-unquote me, telling her how I was in jail and I needed to be bailed out. I was in the car with my 13-year-old friends and we got pulled over and the cops found drugs under my 13-year-old friend's seat and they took us 13-year-olds to prison." Yep, she believed it, and went to wire the money to them at the local Western Union. Somehow I got blamed for this. This story is also super believable because I've definitely seen this in the news. This is not a new thing at all. This next story was posted 4 years ago and it's titled, "He was living under our house." Back in 2007 or so, we moved to a new house that had been off the rental market due to the previous tenant trashing it. All good. There was still a bloodstain on the carpet and holes in the walls, but they were fixing it up and we were happy to find somewhere walking distance to everything. But strange things kept happening. Underwear and bras were missing off the line. We kept seeing someone walking through our backyard. Someone moved a bench in the yard to under our son's bedroom door and tried to break the security screen. We padlocked the gates, but we kept seeing this person walking through. And then one night when my husband was away on a work trip, I could hear someone outside the house. They got to the fuse box, and there I am sitting in the dark with a 2-year-old little boy, with some maniac laughing and hitting the door. Needless to say, I called the police, but it took them 6 hours to come. They waved it off as a prank and did very little. Really shook my trust in QLD police. No idea what that stands for. In 3 months, we had 3 attempted break-ins, and we couldn't work out why. We honestly, being young parents, had very little to steal. We took precautions, changed our son's curtains from Winnie the Pooh, and he slept in our room. We're very afraid and never really felt secure. One night we could hear someone open the window and the window blinds, and there is a face. He proceeds to start hitting the glass. Again, we call the police while I give a description. Again, it takes hours. They turn up and we are chatting with them at the carport. And the female police officer informs us the light under the house is on. What light under the house? That's a storage area we had put things in there the day we moved in and not gone in there again, and certainly had not found or turned a light on. They go investigate and found basically a nest. A bed made out of our old moving boxes, with some of my underwear and bras and a stack of our son's toys and our outgrown clothes. He had been living under the house. The police told us to padlock the door into the storage area and left telling us to just keep an eye out for him. The landlord ended up finding out it may have been the old tenant who had been evicted. It took me maybe another 6 months to feel safe even hanging out clothes on the line due to the fact it was right next to that door. And even now, how many years later, I still don't like the storage areas and never really feel safe around them. One of the top comments is a user with a similar story. I found a guy living under my house in a California beach town. He fixed up the crawl space with the beach towels my neighbors and I had hung on the fence to dry, borrowed my bike a few times, eventually sold it, and crapped in the bushes. His sleeping area was directly under my bed. Creepy. Okay, so I guess this happened in Australia because someone said, as an Aussie, I'm so disappointed to hear about the response or lack thereof from the police. Hopefully since then they've sharpened up. So glad everyone is okay. The thought of sitting in the dark hearing some maniac laugh, nope. Thank you so much for listening / possibly watching this if you're on Spotify and you can see it, I don't know. Before I end it though, I do want to give a shout out to the Patreon members. Haven't done this in a while because I was gone for 2 weeks. Sorry about that. Thank you so much to Jake D, Connor C, Rocket 7, Becca, and Riley. Thank you for becoming Patreon members. If the rest of you want bonus stuff, I just posted a 3-part little series about the human body broker industry. So yeah, if you're interested in that, the link will be in the description. And yeah, that's about it. I hope you all have a good day, evening, or night. Goodbye.